Welcome back to the Queer Circle podcast, where queer healers come to the mic to share their journeys and what they tell their younger selves. Today's guest is Keyoncé Dillon, a Black queer spiritual life and business coach, tarot reader, and cultural sociologist, as well as the host of Millenial Soul Food podcast. Keyon is based in New Orleans, Louisiana. They have a bachelor's degree in Latin American Studies from the University of Mississippi and a master's degree in sociology with a focus in social psychology from the University of Michigan, with extensive professional experience in higher education, as well as independent consultant work with creative entrepreneurs and organizations. Welcome to the Queer Circle, Keyoncé.
Well, I was born through immaculate conception. I'm kidding. No, 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 I was born in, no, I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. And that's the birthplace of Elvis, the person who stole all the blues music from my cousins. So I I grew up there. I lived there for like 18 years, up until I went to college. But I guess as far as extraordinary birth story or events surrounding my birth, I think one thing that was really important as far as me becoming a healer, or I guess being seen as kind of like I guess like a spiritual being, like my grandmother did prayers over me a whole lot. And so when I was first born, that was something that she was like intent to do, was like pray over me, pray protection over me, all that kind of stuff. She even would like put her hands up like in the form of a cross, and she'd do all that. So I do think that is something that had a lot to do with my success throughout life and stuff. My dad and my mom were not married whenever I was born. And so they like my dad, he lived I guess like a few hours away. But yeah, I was raised by a single mother, and I was basically with my mother for a lot of the time too. And then like two aunts. So primarily I was raised by like four women. Hmm. And then I guess the other side of my family, my dad's side of the family is from Mississippi and Louisiana. So they're from about like an hour and a half north of here, in New Orleans. And then I have like family from here. Oh my God, that was from fucking, I guess age 4. I don't know. I think, especially going to kindergarten and interacting with other kids, that was when a lot of awareness kind of highlighted and policed in very particular ways, not only by other students but also by teachers. So I think, yeah, I think it was more the ex world's reaction to me being kind of like a femme child that really made me realize I'm like fucking different. And I will say it was very, I honestly would not go back to my childhood. Like I had a really good like mom and like family and stuff like that. But I think that was like one of the roughest, I think, I guess experience I have ever gone through, or I feel like I will ever go if as far as being 6 and 7 and feeling kind of like adults don't want to be around me because I'm acting a certain, because I'm not like, playing football or something like that. So yeah, I feel like a lot of my early realizations of my queer self were kind of traumatic. Um, like sexuality, I think I started to notice like I was into men's, and like this is like the 4th or 5th grade. And I remember that, and I'm not gonna say his name, but he was tall, sexy, and chocolate. We were, and mind you, I was in the 5th grade, so it's not like I younger people like that. But I noticed that he was in volleyball, and he like jumped up and it was hella like sporty. I was like, oh my God, he looks good. But that was like the first moment I was like, holy shit, like, whoa, I'm into men a little bit. So yeah, that was the fourth grade. And then I didn't really quote unquote come out until my freshman year of college. But yeah, as far as early realizations of self, I do feel like I had some people who were protective of me, but they didn't mention my like queerness or my like the way that I acted as far as like gender wise. My grandmother was always, she never like made me feel like I was acting like a girl or whatever. She never like made any comments or anything like that. So I always felt very safe with her. Me and my mother, we did kind of like a lot of policing from her, but we've gone through like a whole process of, you know, forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. But I will say she did do a lot of policing along with like other people. I remember I was in the third grade one time and the principal of the school noticed that I was hanging out with a lot of girls and he called my mom and was like, hey, Keon's hanging out with too many girls. You might want to check on that. And she didn't tell me that until I was in college. And she told me that and I kind of broke down crying because I was like, damn it, because it made a lot more sense as far as like how I was being treated by adults and like I guess the kind of like difference that I felt. It wasn't just me being kind of like paranoid. It was actually like, you know, the administration talking about how I was hanging out with too many girls and stuff. But it's not, I wasn't a bad student. I made like straight A's and stuff like that. So they couldn't really say too much shit to me. But I do think a lot of my early realizations of myself were kind of in contrast to like a lot of institutions, you know. Yeah, early realizations of self was I was bullied like a lot, but I wasn't really like meek or anything. I like cursed people out and like got in the fights and all that kind of stuff. Um I will say later on it was something I had to move through as far as like internalized anger after I left that environment. Like for instance, whenever I went to grad school in Michigan, I went to like Ann Arbor is like granola crunch. Like, you know, white people like, hi, how are you doing? Oh my God, wow. You know, cheese and like, oh my milk cows, wow. And I was up there, I had gotten there from Mississippi. I was like, bitch, why are you looking at me like that across the street? What you trying to step up, bitch? And it wasn't, and I didn't need to be like that. So it really, that kind of made me realize I had kind of internalized a lot of like queer rage, but a lot of growing up, especially was kind of me being bullied, just by like key people. And then also like trigger warning, there was like some sexual assault as far as like people like coming up to me and like grabbing my crotch and being like, you're gay. Ew, you like that, don't you? When it's like, you obviously like it because you keep doing it all the time. But on the flip side, I was like really popular. I feel like that happens to a lot of like queer kids who are kind of like eccentric, like we're popular, but then there's like groups of people who like bully us, or you know, it's easy to laugh at certain parts of who we are and stuff. Um, so school, like elementary school, junior high, high school wasn't terrible, but I would not go back to it like for $1 million just because it was kind of like it was a lot. It was terrible. A lot of gaslighting. And I grew up in literally like it's not the middle of nowhere, but this very country town in Mississippi. So yeah, and this was really, I feel like 2 years after me, like especially in college, that's when there were a lot more visibly queer kids. Because these days, Generation Z, they're like, yeah, I got green hair and I'm 10 years old. What's up? Whereas like for me, I was kind of into like wearing all black and being emo. This was like 2005. I was on my live journal, like, oh my God, like I have all these feelings. I don't know who I am. Like, I'm like poetic and I just wear all black. Wearing a lot, I was wearing skinny jeans and stuff. That was before a lot of people wore skinny jeans and when Converse shoes were like the devil and people were like, you're the devil and you're gay and da 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 da. I'm like, shut the hell up. So a lot of the early realizations of myself as far as queerness and gender and sexuality, it was kind of like a fight. to be honest. Yeah. But I think it informs who I am today. Well, I would definitely say that well, I would say my mom definitely because really provided for me despite the fact that we had like a lot of stuff going on, and I know it was difficult for her. Just like raising somebody who was kind of like extremely different, like because I'm kind of very extraterrestrial in a lot of ways, or I would be saying stuff and they'd be like, "Keon's kind of a smart ass," and she's like, "Yeah, I know." Um, but I would say she's one of my heroes. And then especially my grandmother. My grandmother was she had premonitions. She passed away in 2019, but she was like 91 years old. So she had a really good life. And she passed away on a harvest full moon on a Friday the 13th. It's hella witchy. But she actually was one of my heroes growing up. Just I spent so much time with her for like the 18 years that I was living in Tupelo, and she is one of the first people, I guess, who kind of introduced me to like dream interpretation, because she would always talk about, she'd be like, "Lord, I dreamt about that," or "I had a dream about somebody gonna have a girl. I dreamt about some pink fish." So she is kind of like someone who introduced me to the I guess the fact that there is more to reality than what we see, because she also was someone who did like Bible scrying. So she didn't do readings or anything like that, but she would like read the Bible and like get a vision about something, or like it would be an omen about something that was going to happen. So hearing her talk about her dreams and talk about I guess like the I guess like sight that is beyond like the normal senses, um that is kind of how I got my introduction, I guess, to like more mystical types of like thinking and philosophy and stuff. And she also was like, I would describe her definitely as like a kitchen witch, because she really was a healer through her cooking and food. And she's how I learned how to like cook. And I know how to throw down in the kitchen. My future husband, they lucky. Okay, okay. But for real, I know how to make gumbo. Like I can make it healthy. I can make vegan. I can make real gumbo. So I know how to like cook for real. But it's all thanks to her. So she, I guess, as far as like her abilities also to be she was a healer, but like also like a community person. So just seeing how she interacted with people also kind of I guess color the way that I interact with others. So kind of being, I don't really like, wouldn't describe myself as being meek with other people, but I kind of approach people in a respectful way. And I try to just be like, I try to give people space to be themselves, which is kind of how I see her as being. And I saw her do that as I was growing up and stuff like that. And then who else? I mean, a cultural figure, Beyonce. Beyonce. I mean, it's Keyoncé up in this bitch. But yeah, definitely, definitely for real, like, pero like, yeah, that was my girl. But she actually is the reason I guess I stepped into my queerness, because this was like 2003. And I'm not going to mention this person's name, but I had a best friend who was also gay, but he was in the Pentecostal church. And so I grew up Southern Baptist. And I just kind of wanted to switch around and see about different denominations of the church, because the Southern Baptist church I went to for like a period, they didn't even clap. They were so stuffy. And I think I was just looking for more of the spirit, more of like, liveliness. And so I started going to a Church of God in Christ church, and I went to a Pentecostal church because something just drew me to the services and the speaking in tongues and stuff like that. And so I became best friends with this person, and we were best friends for maybe like a year. And I was like 15, he was 16. And definitely, I don't know, I could tell that we had crushes on each other, but it wasn't like we were like doing anything sexual. It was just more kind of like, ooh, you jack off. How many times a week do you do it? And you're like, oh, I don't know. So yeah. So we were best friends and stuff, but little did I know during the friendship, he was like, I guess like he was having sexual relations with other people. Not like, I mean, we weren't having sex, but I didn't know that he was gay for real until after we stopped being friends. But he like tried something with me, and I was kind of like, oh, okay. It was like just literally like touchy, like, oh, I'm gonna feel this. But I didn't feel very comfortable with it because I would see him in church speaking in tongues and being like, gay is bad and this. But then after we did that, I was kind of like, well, you do understand that you kind of just broke your, I guess, like allegiance to the church. Or I was like, you understand what you did is technically a sin in the eyes of the church. So how do you navigate that? And he was like, whoa, no, no. Then his granddad was watching porn and shit too. I'm like, girl, get out of here. But yeah, that was kind of like a moment. And then Beyonce, actually, her first album came out, Crazy in Love. And so as part of me being with this church, I was trying to stop listening to secular music. And so I had gone like maybe 3 weeks. But then, bitch, Beyonce's album came out. That first album, Crazy in Love. I look and stare so deep in your eyes. Touch it. I could not. And I was like, I'm not doing this. And so I was like, I can't not listen to secular music. And so I didn't come out as being gay and stuff like that at 15, but I did I decided not to stay with that church. And then also, I decided that I wanted to live my life as a fuller person and being secular wasn't like I was going to go to hell or anything like that, just listening to Beyonce and stuff like that. And by the way, my mother wasn't even trying to like get me to stop listening to rap music and stuff because she has always listened to it. This is just kind of more of my own journey. And so yeah, I would say Beyonce, seeing her just kind of get out there and do her thing, like that BET performance when she did Crazy in Love, the video, just like, I don't know, she inspired me a whole lot, and her like spirit and her energy did. And so it inspired me to kind of just live my life unapologetically, and just also come into my like extraness as Keyoncé, sort of. Because Keyoncé emerged, I guess I can go into that a little bit. But Keyoncé, while we're on this topic, so there is a club in Memphis, Tennessee called Backstreet. And it was about an hour and a half away from where I went to college. And we would go there, I guess, like, every week. And I wasn't out at that time, but I mean, everybody knew it. Just whenever I came out, people were like, okay, and the sky is blue. Great. Anyway, so like purses falling out of my mouth, like everywhere. I'm like, yeah, you didn't see that, girl. I, I ain't gay. I'm safe. But Backstreet, but we would go to Backstreet. And so one night, we had gone to Perkins at like 3 a.m., which is it's kind of like a Waffle House place. And I was just kind of hanging out, and I was like, wow, this feels so good, like being out in the club, and like I just feel like I was another person. And I was like, I feel like I'm like Keyoncé almost. And then everybody at the table was like, ah, yes. So then, since then, it's been Keyoncé since like 18 years old. And yeah, I feel like Keyoncé is kind of a part, like a greater part of me that I kind of I guess I embody through social media and through being kind of extra, but it's who I am, but it's kind of like a more performative aspect. Like Keyoncé, I have to tame Keyoncé down a lot of times and be like, okay, chill out. Like, we're alone right now, so no need to be extra. Cause I'll be walking around like I'm in high heels, like alone in a towel. But I'm an editorial bitch like that. So I can be in a garbage bag, and I fucking like, I look like Anna Wintour model, bitch. Okay. Devil wears Prada, hoe. But yeah. So Beyonce was definitely one of my heroes. And who else? Let me think. It wasn't any men. No, because all men are dogs. But let me think. There were a couple of men in my life who were pretty cool, but I wouldn't really say like yeah. I didn't really I have an all right relationship with my dad. He wasn't really around when I was growing up and stuff, but yeah, I would say those people I talked about, my grandmother, my mother, Beyonce, those are definitely some of the key people. There's other people too, but those are the ones I can think of right now. I think as far as like me being bullied and all that kind of stuff, the social isolation was a part of the kind of harder, darker times of my journey. But I guess as far as my like spirit is what kind of like held me together throughout all of that. And then I guess my like spirit guides too, because I mean, definitely there were moments of like suicide ideation, like trigger warning for sure. And like moments when I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Why the fuck am I here? But there was always something there that was like, like there's greener pastures or something would always be like, well, do this or like, just stick to your grades and you can leave as soon as you like, go to college and stuff like that. But I think what informed me as a healer from all of that is I guess my ability to be contrarian, but in a kind of productive way. Because a lot of times I was the person who was the most different in college in Mississippi, growing up and stuff like that. But I had to explain my experience to people in ways that they might understand. And also ways that showed them that I wasn't going to back down or, that they weren't going to tell me that a part of myself wasn't valid. So I think one thing, especially today, since I'm like 32 now, like an actual adult, like shit. But I think what the way that I like to inspire like younger people, especially, or people who I guess like enjoy my content is just kind of like authentically being myself is the way that I've always persevered in life. And also using the anger and the rage kind of a productive way. And also I think like harder and like darker times kind of informed me that like I'm not a perfect individual. And yeah, I might be kind of hot-headed at times, but no healer is like perfect or anything like that. So I think also I'd like owning that is something that has really informed my journey as a healer. Because I don't think of myself as like a guru or anything like that. I think of myself as just someone who, I guess I think of myself as like the hermit tarot card. And like I have used the lamp, I've used the light to go through my own darkness. So I'm just here to show you kind of how I did my how I went about my process, and then I hope it inspires other people, and then I can give advice and stuff like that. But I think that is definitely how the harder and darker times of my journey influenced who I am today. And also I think it influenced my like social activism, because in Chicago, I lived in Chicago for like 5 years, and I did a lot of social activism there, like protesting. And this was around 2014, 2015, 2016. And I stopped going to the streets after that because we getting shot out here. I stopped going to do protesting out in the streets after that. I just started doing like my healing, my like tarot and stuff like that. But I do think, yeah, growing up, like, and feeling that kind of social isolation really like catalyzed kind of a mission to reach people who felt alone. And then also it kind of made me want to do more social activism. So in Chicago specifically, I feel like I really got to know a lot of people who had the similar experiences that I had, but kind of using the experiences to be like community builders and to like, help out others or like, kind of be examples for other people. I'm also a rising Aquarius, like I'm Aquarius rising. So Aquarian people, well, I'm also a moon in Capricorn and sun in Capricorn. So those signs are very weary of other people, especially like authority figures. So I think especially the Aquarius in me kind of is like, yeah, I'm like producing content and y'all think I know a lot of shit, but I honestly just read a lot of books, and this knowledge is from somebody else. I'm learning from somebody else. I'm doing readings. Yeah, I'm a diviner and all that kind of stuff, but everyone has their own certain kinds of gifts. And I mean, there could be someone out there that is in one of my courses and they're more powerful than I am, quote unquote, more powerful. I don't see that as a threat. I just see it as some like me needing to hold space for that person. So I don't really see myself, like I said, as like of other people. I just kind of see if anything, I just see myself as like an alien in like a human skin suit, and I'm like, ugh, I don't know what's happening, but yeah, I think that the Aquarius part does kind of make me weary of being like the go-to person for people. Like even whenever I post content, I'm like, do your own research. If this content doesn't resonate with you, it's not going to hurt my feelings because there's a lot of other content that you can consume. So yeah, that's kind of how I try to wear the hat of being a quote unquote healer. Like I mean, a girl, I know I'm powerful as fuck, but but I'm here for everybody to learn and stuff like that, So it's a delicate balance. Examining my life, I think anxiety and depression have been very huge um, setbacks, but I didn't really see them as setbacks because I think for years I just saw my anxiety as being like, oh yeah, well I just kind of like to get shit done, I just like go out there and I fucking do the shit, period. But no, it wasn't like that. But I think yeah, especially from this past relationship I was in, I was able to really work on my anxiety and actually kind of like pinpoint the sources and triggers and stuff like that. And also I did a lot of reflection over my life, just seeing how I like handled certain situations, especially whenever I was feeling anxious. Because I guess in the past few years, I have been able to identify my like social anxiety more. And my social anxiety didn't really manifest as like, oh my God, I don't want to be around people. They scare me. It was more like, who are you? Get the fuck away from me. It was like, I'll just get pissed, like, leave me alone. Um, so I think looking back on different interactions where I'm like, oh my God, you were extra as hell. Like, damn, that was actually my anxiety. And then also like the feelings of depression. I do feel like for a long time, like the anxiety and depression kind of like catapulted me forward because throughout like elementary and junior and high school, I was always like, I need to make straight A's so that I can get out of Mississippi. I need to make sure that I'm on this so I can get out. And then I think with grad school, it was kind of a similar thing of like, I need to have a job and da 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 da. And whenever I got into my adult life, I was kind of like, why can't I chill out? And like, why do I have this like pit in my stomach? And why do I feel like this? And then that's whenever I started a lot of generational healing. And I started talking to my mother about like just being made fun of and bullied. And we had some really good conversations that kind of helped alleviate my depression as far as her recognizing some of the things that she did to police my gender because she used to do that or like no it wasn't like that and I'm like when you say that it makes me feel like I literally didn't exist and like I'm just making this stuff up and it's like gaslighting me. So we actually, throughout my, like, I guess in my 20s, like later 20s, we had some really good conversations that kind of helped me rise out of the depression, because I was able to do a lot of reflection and figure out kind of like the source, or like the types of events that happened that kind of, I guess, set the depression snowball in effect into motion. And I definitely, I remember in college also, I would have these like periods sometimes for like 2 weeks or more, where I just like wouldn't want to talk to anybody, and I would just like, I would wear a lot of black and just be like, ugh, leave me alone. But I know those were like depressive episodes, but I just wasn't I wasn't aware of it. And I'm very like high functioning anxiety, anxious, depressive person. So, it looks like I'm doing 10 million things, but then on the inside, I'm like, you know, so that is definitely something I struggled with. And then I recently actually started taking medication for anxiety, and that was one of the best decisions. Like, I mean, I'm on like a little script, like 25 milligrams of Zoloft, but it definitely has helped. And I also cut down, I don't drink coffee anymore. And so that has helped. And I mean, this is just now in my 30s, but I feel like I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, oh shit, okay, I can actually start to make these kinds of changes in my life and not feel like I'm spiraling out of control. Because there was a certain point when I was like, oh my God, I got to stop drinking coffee. Holy shit, how am I going to do anything? But now my life is kind of, I've set my life up now to where I can like kind of go through the transition and, learn how to engage healthier coping mechanisms. And it's kind of like, I mean, we live in the matrix. We literally live in a social system that has all kinds of environmental cues that trigger our systems, our bodies, in ways that we're not even aware of. And then, especially being like a super hypersensitive spiritual person, like actually my godmom is the person who was like, you need to get you some anxiety meds, go get you a script, because she takes, I mean, anxiety meds too. And like, I think it's very important not to stigmatize medication, because trust and believe, I tried everything. I smoke weed too, but I mean, I tried all of it and it just wasn't helping. It was like literally physiological symptoms, and then it was like, damn, I haven't fucking eaten like one meal in like a week and a half because I'm so ramped up. And yeah, I think there was one week I've slept maybe like 7 hours, because I was also experiencing like a lot of spiritual upgrades, and they just love happening at nighttime. I don't know. So I was like, I need to get on medication so that I can like show up for my job and show up for, and a spiritual person, help people and shit. Like that. But it was a hard realization, because I mean, I went through a week period of crying because I was like, oh my God, like there's something wrong with me. Like I actually have to take meds. Like what the hell? But hearing people talk about it, like they would like, because a lot of my friends take anxiety meds too, but they would say this thing like, I realized that I didn't have to suffer like that anymore. Sometimes would make me start crying, because I was like, holy shit, that's so true. So I'm really glad that I am doing the medication and stuff. There was a certain point where I'm sick of like suffering like this. Like literally I can't go to sleep because there's this like feeling in my stomach, and like my mind is racing. And I think it's important to recognize that we're all human, and that we live in actual bodies that are, they have a time limit, they have restrictions and limitations. So yeah, that was a part. It was a kind of difficult journey to get to taking the meds and stuff, but I had to dismantle a lot of my own like problematic thinking around like medication and mental health and stuff. So okay, I will honestly say like psychedelics really helped me a whole lot in college. I don't guess plant medicine is the more PC way to say it. Plant medicine especially, because I mean I've been doing ritual and stuff. I guess I don't know what kind of witchcraft it's called, but it's more like shamanism. It's like kind of like spiritual technology, but I would do, like, you know, mushrooms and other psychedelics as a form of like therapy. Not like I'm telling people to go out there and do this themselves, but I had actually like set up activities like, you know, painting, going out into nature. And this was also all in Mississippi, where it's like it's just like a bunch of trees everywhere. So that actually really helped me. Because I was doing, I guess, like LSD and stuff too. But it helped me because like whenever I was medicated on, I guess, like, you know, or going on my trip or whatever, I was able to see things in kind of like a double or even like triple consciousness sometimes. And so let's say I would think of myself being bullied, but then I would think about that person's like home environment. And then I would think about their parents and like how they were influenced by just socialized into particular ways of thinking. And it didn't make me any really less angry at people because stupid as well. But it did make me kind of realize the bigger context, and it made me realize kind of like the interconnections of different traumas that people experience and that people also project onto other people. And so that was really the, I would say during college, like that 4 years with my friends, um, that was a really huge leap in my spiritual journey because I had the opportunity to do, I mean, you could call it extra dimensional travel and really, really get a lot of understanding from my spirit guides about my place as like Keyoncé, and then my place as far as like telling my story and living authentically. Um, yeah, I definitely would say helped a whole lot. And then I continued to like microdose and stuff like that. But that was a huge part. And I have an episode about this on my Millennial Soul Food podcast. It's my initiation, but I actually performed like a 12 to 15 hour ritual while I was on LSD, where it was like I induced like a soul death and rebirth through, it was like this book called The Psychedelic Experience by Timothy Leary. He was this like Harvard professor. Um, but he actually wrote this book that was based on the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dead. And it was a guide on how to go through an LSD trip and experience the kind of death that they talk in the Tibetan Book of Living and Dead, and experience the different realities, different iterations of realities and all that, and nothingness and like, you know, wavelength particles and all that, whatever. Um, so that was a huge um ritual that I did, and it was actually on a Grand Cross eclipse. I didn't know that I had timed it this way. And also the place that I was in got struck by lightning. I call myself a storm witch because I was like taking in the energy of the storm also as a kind of like I was kind of a conduit of the energy, but it was also driving me to realize like all this different stuff. Like I had a lot of realizations about the ways that society's thinking is structured through like propaganda and different symbols, the ways that a lot of the concepts that we're given are based on kind of a binary scale of like, you know, black and white, like, you know, Democrat, Republican, black or white. You were either this or this. And when it's like there's a huge spectrum, and you know, like gay or straight. So I feel like I was really able to um quote unquote objectively look at a lot of categories that we create as humans and see through them and just like break through. And that had a lot to do, I don't know, I feel like having that moment just kind of unlocked the keys to like a lot of different other subjects and concepts, because I got more into metaphysics and even physics and like understanding more like electromagnetics. And yeah, I feel like that was a huge moment for me, and it happened on June 26, 2010, and so I celebrate that every year as like a holiday. I work within the realm of ideas, and my Mercury is in the 12th house in Aquarius. And so the 12th house has to do with the unknown and kind of like reincarnation, the afterlife, and a lot of the areas of reality that we don't see. It's kind of similar to the eighth house, but the 12th house also has to do with like the unknown, and Mercury has to do with our form of communication, and Aquarius is like very into like systems and technology and futurist thinking. And so I see myself as someone who has like gone to these other worlds, and I'm bringing back like essential information. Because a lot of the shit I talk about is weird as hell. I never would have thought that people would be into this stuff like maybe 10 years ago, 10 or 20 years ago. But I do kind of see myself as a person, because a lot of the experiences that I've had as far as like the shamanic travels and stuff like that, it's really scary shit. Like, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff. I mean, it's beautiful, but also scary as fuck. So I think, not like I'm being like, I'm a soldier, but it's like I just started thinking about the Destiny's Child song. But I see myself as someone who is meant to go to these other realms and then come back and communicate this like information in a way that is palpable and digestible to other people. Because sometimes you can't really feed an infant a steak. Hallelujah. Can you get that? Hallelujah. You can't feed a baby a steak. Baby, you can't listen. Do you hear me? So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you got to chop it up, dice it up, whip it and reverse it for people so that they can understand the downloads. So I see myself, because I get a lot of downloads. Like sometimes my spirit guides actually send me downloads through like light. So I will like see a rainbow of light, and then it'll be my third eye will be like, and then I just get a bunch of ideas about like a lot of different shit. So that's kind of what I see myself as. And then Millennial Soul Food is basically it's like channeled information, and it's like information that it's kind of like information that I've synthesized over like 20 years of being interested in like occultism and philosophy and stuff like that. So yeah, I think of that as my offering. And then also I think my other offering that I can give to the community is, I guess, assisting others in how to do these kinds of travels, which is what I've been doing more of with my like courses and stuff, and just teaching people how to go about using these different tools, metaphysical tools, or like through astral projection, how they too can travel to these kind of like other realms to necessary information, and also I feel like um I guess fulfill the collective like will, which is like to and to learn and expand and stuff like that. So yeah, I think yeah, my offering is basically going to the other world and going to outer space, and then coming back and being like, all right, listen y'all, so this shit is how it is from my point of view, because I believe everything is real. Like, I'm not really going to tell someone that Hindu gods aren't real, because I believe everything is real. So I think people, like, as far as me, I'm just doing it for people who need to message, because everyone's not going to listen to my message, and I don't really care if everybody listens to it, but the people who need to hear it are going to hear it, and it's going to resonate. So yeah, that's my offering. Yeah. I would say to my child self, continue leaning in on your friends and leaning in on your community, and also continue being your authentic self and saying what you feel like you need to say, even if it like steps on some people's toes. Um, yeah, I would just say like, I mean, I feel like I did a pretty good job as a child. I feel like sometimes whenever I was a child too, it's funny that you said this, because I would think of a future self who was giving me advice from like somewhere else. So I would think of like, what would 35-year-old Keon tell me right now? So yeah, I do think I would tell myself to kind of like stay encouraged and know that I do matter, like my story matters, like I matter as like a person. Cuz I mean a lot of times during my journey I was like, damn, like I don't matter at all. Like if I were to be wiped off the earth, it wouldn't really fucking matter, period. But you just never know what is going to happen in the future necessarily. And I'm saying this as someone who's psychic. You never know happen in the future or the ways that your journey is going to transform somebody else's. Um, and so, yeah, I would say definitely stay encouraged and then continue building community. I guess also recognizing accountability and relationships early on is pretty important too. Um, yeah, and then just kind of learning how to trust people, but over sort of like over time, not to like kind of give my trust like blindly. So yeah, those are some things I would tell my child self, and be fierce, period. Drops mic.
Thank you for joining us today in the Queer Circle, Keyoncé. If you'd like to learn more about Keyoncé's work, please check out their website, millennialsoulfood.biz, their Instagram at millennialsoulfood, or their podcast, Millennial Soul Food Podcast, streamed wherever podcasts can be found. For this information and more, visit queercirclepodcast.com. Music from today's episode provided by Purple Fluorite, found wherever music can be streamed.